Welcome back to Freedom to Learn podcast. My name is Guru Yellamraju. I'm the founder of Siliconvalley4u. And for those who are not familiar with the podcast, subscribe. You'll get to know a lot of cool podcasts going forward and also the archives we have. And also press the like button. Today we have Srivibha Yellamraju, and she has been with Siliconvalley4u for what, 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
4 years,
Yes.
roughly. Yeah, or even more. She used to be with us when people used to meet. So and since then, and then we went to the pandemic and everything. Now she's um, completed her high school and she's going into UC Berkeley. So we are going to talk about her journey and how and what got interested in coding, what she has been doing with us, and her career goals and whatnot. So welcome, Viva.
Thank you.
All right. So for the viewers, just tell us about yourself and where you grew up and what motivated to get into tech, and then just give us the introduction.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Vibha, and I've been with Siliconvalley4u, like going and learning coding and working with them for like a total of 4 years now. And in the beginning, well, I actually went to Evergreen Valley High School in San Jose, and in the beginning, I wasn't very sure about whether I wanted to learn coding because just looking at it, it seemed really intimidating. Like I've seen my parents growing up and doing all these things, and it just seemed like really boring for me because when I thought about coding, I thought of like, oh, like a job where you sit in front of a computer all day. But I think something that motivated me to kind of learn coding is when I found out about how applicable it is in a bunch of industries. Like me, for example, I was very interested in biology. And when I learned about like how coding can be applied to that field, like when I came to Silicon Valley, like one of the first projects we did was something where you had to decode a bunch of DNA sequences and apply it to something. And that's what kept me interested in coding.
Yeah. So that's so I always say this, coding and especially tech overall is should not be a subject anymore, in my opinion. It's more like a life skill. It's like a language, one must learn, mother tongue, let's say. So it's like a mother tongue and secondary mother tongue. And so the reason is um, it's integrated into everything now. So whether you want to be in biology or mechanical engineering, God knows whatever you want to be, and tech is there, and it's going to be even worse as time goes on, as worse as in a good way. And so knowing and taking this as a fun skill gets you going. And also the other cool thing about tech is it allows you to be extremely creative, and it has the platform allows you to solve problems and introduce things that weren't there before. Whereas in math, if or any subject, any domain, in general, to bring that kind of knowledge, you had to be extraordinary. In other words, you had to be top mathematician to solve very complex problems. There are only a handful of them in the world. But with coding or tech, there are a bunch of people already introduced last 20 years. So many things that none of them are considered top mathematicians or top anything for that matter. They're all
Right.
fairly average people. So that's the cool thing about tech. That's why I always preach to parents and students that they must adapt to coding as a life skill rather than a subject. So anyway, so that got into coding. Now you're starting your new phase in life, getting into college, which is very exciting, just so you know. This is the best time of your life, in my opinion, and the next
I hope.
undergrad, uh, for anybody, I think that's the best. After that, so and the life starts. Let's just say after that life starts, and so yeah. So let's talk about what do you want to be in college and what do you want to do beyond that, and yeah.
Right. So I've chosen to major in bioengineering in the College of Engineering at Berkeley. So that means I'm a biomed major, which means I have a couple options. Like either, some people they go to pre-med, but I kind of want to work in the industrial side of bioengineering, which means like maybe working as a technician or an engineer at a company like Genentech, Thermo Fisher, all these like companies that are really based in biotech. I kind of want to specialize in something related to bioinformatics, like trying to figure out what to do with data related
Yeah.
to healthcare. Like again, like that project that we did in Silicon Valley, that just like with the DNA sequencing, like I got to do something kind of like that for one of my science fairs. So I got an interest in that. So yeah, it's something definitely involving coding and CS and bio.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So I think that we call it DNA analysis. It's still there in swatcloud.com. If you go there, you can see the demo of DNA analysis where I think it converts from DNA to RNA. And I'm not an expert. I don't know what happens after that. And so I remember that part. We convert from DNA to RNA and then zones and God knows. I'm not a biology person. I never studied anything. I studied in sixth class. I don't remember anything. Um, so yeah, so that I think so. See, I guess one thing about education is the biggest challenge with the education system is there is a gap between the real world, how it operates, and then how education system operates end to end overall everywhere. It's not just specific to US or it's a global problem or global system where the problem or not at all. Different people have different perspectives. In other words, the real world is very unstructured. There is no structure. There is no. So, for instance, right now, when you go to college, there is a start date, there is a curriculum, there is a process, there is a semester, there is a quarter system or semester system, whatever it is, and then there is an exam, and then it repeats, and then it repeats, and then it repeats, like so many 20 years from kindergarten to undergrad. You just keep doing and doing it. You suddenly get out and you join, let's say Genentech. Genentech says, "Oh, hey, you go and work with this guy." That's it. There is no process. This is it. So there is no curriculum, there is no exam, there is no semester, right?
Right.
Go and figure it out. So then sometimes it's kind of throw you off, and you're like, like I've seen people just fish out of pond, like don't know where to start. And what does that mean? I mean, what do you ask him? I mean, so you go and then ask, hey, what do I do? And he says, okay, take this spreadsheet and look at something, and you look at something and doze off, and you don't know what. So I've seen all these funny scenarios. It's not funny though when somebody's going through it. Um, I mean, I myself, I can speak for it. When I first joined my first company, for many, almost a year, I was struggling to understand what project I'm working on. I'm doing my part. I'm understanding what I'm doing, but I kept asking my systems analyst, "Can you give me an overview of this?" And they don't have time. So they have to report to their boss and make sure the project is on track and everything. So he's busy with his stuff and he's not going to sit down. He'll give me like 10 minutes, half an hour overview. Okay, this is how it works. And sometimes it's not good enough. You want to ask more questions. He doesn't have time for me, and but it's not his fault. And so I'm doing my part, and then over a period of time, after a couple of years, I start. So now I understand what I did back then. That's too late.
Yeah.
So, but even back then, I used to tell him that. So he used to praise me that I was doing my job very well, but I always used to complain that yes, I know my part. I know I'm doing well because I know that, but I don't know anything else. What's happening here?
Like you're
So
struggling to see the big picture
big
at the
picture,
end of the
right?
day.
So I'm one of those guys. If I don't get the big picture, I'll just get confused and I just don't know where it's going. And Yeah, so that's the challenge. I'll tell you what we did back then. We did SSC exam, 10th class examination processing, meaning for entire state, we take the data, we crunch the numbers, and we put them in different levels, like first class, second class, third class, fail, pass, everything. So that's the project. It's very important. It's the state government, and if you get anything wrong, you're responsible for somebody's life. And if somebody fails, so it's not good. So if the guy's supposed to pass and you put him in the fail or vice versa, it's a highly responsible job. But I never understood how in the world where the data is coming from and what are we doing with all this and things like this. Anyway, so where I'm going with all this is that um, you know, I tell all the students, especially people who are with us, Siliconvalley4u, is you have to figure out a way to find that. So for that, you need to have an idea of, okay, this is what I want to do. Like you said, I want to work in the, a medical, let's say something to do with medical devices and things like that, and more on the techs plus, healthcare type, basically. So if that is the goal, so you work backwards and make sure that you are involved on those. And so my question to you is, to achieve the goal that you have, do you think the education system that you have today in schools, is it helping? If so, just throw some light on it. If not, if you think something is missing, highlight those so that for those who are trying to do something like this, they hopefully they learn.
Right. I mean, honestly, for most of high school, I was just very confused about what I wanted to do. And even up till my college application process, I was still like, what do I want to do? And I feel like a part of it has to do with school education because, yeah, we're supposed to take these AB classes. Yeah, like you have a general idea, oh, you want to do CS or you want to do pre-med. Like, I feel like even today in my school, there are all these like boxes that you have to
Yeah.
fill.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to find something in between
Yeah.
or like to kind of explore more into different career paths that involve like multiple things at once. And that's why my parents were very confused when I said biomedical engineering. Like, what is that? CS? Is that pre med? Like, you want to be a doctor?
Yeah.
Or you want to study longer just to work in a tech company? Like, they said all these things. But I really wish school today, like, gave you more hands on experiences to, like, like, kind of like what Silicon Valley did. I wish like schools today were more supportive with like finding like internships, like even as high schoolers, or just giving you more like hands-on experiences to explore different fields and like the general CS, pre-med, like, you know,
Yeah.
uh, I wish there's that flexibility.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, I call this checkbox world. So unfortunately, that's, nothing has changed. I'll tell you what I mean by that. There were 30 years ago, your parents, you can speak to your parents, they'll tell you. Back then, there was checkbox world. There was a reason for that because there was no internet and there's no Google, there was nothing. So,
Mhm.
so essentially, if you want to be educated, quote unquote, educated, meaning you have to go to that school. And otherwise, you are not educated. Even though you know the subject, you are not educated because you don't have that letter that states that you are graduated.
Right.
And and as a result, you had no choice that you have to go and follow all the checkbox items and make sure that you fulfill their requirements, not your requirements. And then you get out. I remember many times you get through the exam and you work very hard to forget about everything. So I just don't want to remember because you're not interested in that. Wipe out everything so that you can fill up with something else. And then we learned so many subjects that never used and totally unnecessary and whatever, right? So, but now the world has evolved so much.
Hmm.
I mean, you and I are talking like this, and the world is somewhere else compared to what it was. But schools are exactly same. I mean, maybe there is a small tweak here and there,
Yeah, unless you
but for
go to like
most
a
part,
STEM-based school, it's very difficult. And like most public schools, you still have that
still the
checkbox
same. I
model.
guess that there is a social aspect. I'll come to that in a minute, but you still have to go to a building and you have to stay there for a certain number of years, and then they'll give you a certificate. And so as you said, for instance, there is AP this, AP that, and then so let's say if your goal is not any of those, hey, I want to do this Genentech stuff. There is no AP course for that. You know what I mean? So there is no, and then this is, and okay, forget about that for now. Pass these, and then otherwise you don't get that certain score. If you don't get that certain score, then certain things don't happen. Oh man. And then in this whole saga, a lot of people lose track of what they want to do in life. So and they end up doing what schools are telling you to do. I've been there. I've been
Like
one of the,
half of my friends like wanted to do like pre-med or something. And then last minute, like right before, like a month before college application started, like I switched to CS because my
yeah.
parents said it was more practical. Like it's
CS
like
is like
an
the common bucket
opportunity.
for everybody.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
wild
I
card.
don't even they don't like they say data science on the college application. I asked them like, do you know what data science is? They're like, oh, it's like numbers and math, like and computer science. Like they don't even know what they're doing. So and I mean
It's unfortunate. Just that, yeah. And see, I guess to add to what you're saying, the best approach is you learn and you apply, and then you identify yourself. You discover yourself, what works for you. Everybody, God gave us gifts, and if you identify those, then you're going to do well. It's obvious, right? If you take Michael Jordan, if he plays tremendous basketball, he wasn't that good in anything else, right? However, if he was born in India or he was doing software, imagine how he would have been. You know what I mean? So I guess the point is that he was lucky enough to figure out his strength, and he was able to apply that, and he had a platform to apply and become so successful. Same with all these celebrities, Sachin Tendulkar or movie actor, all these big. So basically, their platform and their abilities matched. So same thing. We all have something we don't know. Maybe I was really good at violin. Who knows? I never attempted in my life. See, I never did. And how do you? I'll never know that was I going to be a fantastic violin player. You call it whatever. And so I never attempted. So I back then is worse. Pass the exam, get a job. End of story. So get violin, guitar. Are you kidding? So anyway, that's the, I guess, the problem, and the way we are trying to change in a, we are adding a lot of things nowadays, and in fact we are going to add more subjects, not only tech, very soon. And we are building the platform where we can connect these resources to their passions and things like that. So let's talk a little bit more about your association and your mentorship internships. And I know you taught, let's see, you would have taught, let's say, 200 300 students, or including camps and all the classes. I don't
right.
know, something like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, talk more about it.
So with Siliconvalley4u, I first started teaching Scratch classes to kids who were like, I think around like 5 to 7. I had kids that were super young,
Yeah.
learning how to code, and it was a good experience. Like I learned to be a lot more patient. I learned how to like engage kids, and like I learned how to explain things to them in different ways, because think about this, this was online, and getting kids attention online on Zoom on top of like internet issues and this thing, that thing, it's pretty difficult. So you would have to do all these things to make it as engaging as possible. Like I would have to create little games for them, interactive projects. And through that, I also strengthened my own skills, like not only coding because it was Scratch, but also like socializing skills, professional skills, like when I had to talk to their parents,
Yeah.
communication, all that. And then I moved on from Scratch to Java and Python. And from there, I've just been teaching those two.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So my strong belief, which is company's belief now, is that we call it continuous learning. You must be a mentor and mentee at the same time.
Right.
So you learn by being mentee from someone, and also you mentor someone else with the skills that you already acquired. So when you mentor, you learn. Really, you really learn. The ones you just described, for instance, having these internet difficulties and dealing with kids of certain age, parents asking questions, and also, something that you don't anticipate comes from the left field. Um, that those cannot be simulated in courses. There is no course for that. It's called common sense. There is no title common sense. There's no subject. So in the sense, if a parent says, blah blah whatever, right, my kid is understanding or not understanding, whatever. So you first, as you said, first you have to listen to them 100% clearly, and then, once, the way I do is, when I hear these parents talking, I start with "you're right." So because,
It's
they're
really
already stressed out at that moment, because, they have this emotional connection with the kid, something they if they it's a happy thing, that's great. If not, then so then slowly I tell them that these are the things you must do, so that your kid gets benefited. It's not about, see, our instructors have trained many, many times, and, for them to change or do one more time is not a big deal. They'll do it. But my question is your kid learning? I'm focusing on that. That's why if you make these changes, it's good for your kid. If you don't want to change, I'm be my guest. We do whatever you expect us to do. So point I'm trying to make is that level of understanding and, serving a customer, right? So the mindset you must have dealing with them is they are right. Customer is always right, and that's like a prerequisite. And then slowly, and you understand that he's not right, he or she. When you understand, you have to politely put it such a way that, they understand that, okay, I think he has a point, and I'm going to make these changes. So it's a learning is a mutual, it's a mutual effort. So many times I can speak for myself. When I joined my undergrad, I was in the dorm. Even before I went to college, I was already told that this guy is useless, professor. That guy is a bad teacher. Yada yada. It's already loaded. I walking in because my seniors are there, so they say, "Oh, this guy is useless, man. That guy doesn't know how to talk. This guy doesn't know how to speak." Yada yada. And then I had already a preconceived notion, and I was very young, right? So I didn't know how to make my own judgment. I walk in thinking this guy is already so so you go and sit there thinking this guy doesn't know, I mean, without even knowing that guy. It's not a good feeling. And in other words, what I'm saying is that there is a tendency to, when there is a, steep learning curve, or something that's not making sense, there's a tendency to point at the instructor, saying that our teacher, oh, they're not doing their job. That may be true partially. I'm not saying that, so there are levels, and some probably good, and also styles, right? Sometimes your styles don't match. It's possible. Partially true, but are you even trying? I mean, how much did you try to learn, or how much did you try to work with that guy to learn? Because at the end of the day, this is you losing. That guy is going to have a job, and so he's all set. So you're not learning. Second, that's why I want them to be mentors. The reason is, when you are mentor, you understand. When you start complaining, first thing that comes to my mind, that kid was telling me on the other
yeah,
day the same thing. So you better.
doing different perspectives that you
You are on
not
the other
really
side of the table,
seen
so
before.
you get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get humbled. So yes, I think
Yeah.
that's why, I mean, I had hilarious situations. Like, there are a lot of times, because we pre-announced that about instructor, high school or whatever, and then this kid, oh, hey, I heard that high schoolers are teaching, and then, and on the same breath they ask, oh, I want my kid internship. So didn't you say you don't want high schoolers to teach, and it's okay if your kid teaches? So they want both, best of the both. They want their kid to do internship, but they want to be taught by, whatever that means, like non-high schoolers. So I guess the point is that so many times I say, if I want to build a coffee shop, I would rather talk to a person who I can connect and understand the supply chain management and everything about business and extrapolate that. If I go and talk to Jeff Bezos, I can't start my business. That guy gives you a very high level, abstract level. You have to understand what to do. You have to figure out how to do it. Okay. Yes, I know all that. So I need, micro level details, right? When you talk to a guy who you connect with, then you learn. And then, to be honest, if you are at a level where you have to talk to Jeff Bezos, you don't need training. You're already an expert, and you just need a conversation with those people to fine tune certain things. So it's not, you don't call that training, so to speak. So that's where I have, many times people say, if I, for instance, if I put machine learning from Stanford PhD, holy moly, a lot of people sign up. Do you really learn if that guy teaches? I mean, like, so do you think that you understand what he's talking about? Most of them don't. I mean, my own colleagues, some of my ex-colleagues didn't understand some of the courses. And so I guess that's where I'm very interested in these internships, where you told me earlier, right? You are dealing with 6 or 7-year-old kids. You are the best person to connect with them, not a 30-year-old guy or girl, a lady. So that's a principle many times people miss, because if I put a big elderly guy,
Even
parents tend to be
more.
very happy. I don't know why. So and just crazy. So, I mean, I had very few parents asking, I want to be taught by younger people, but many of them always feel comfortable if I put. So anyway, all right. So I'm gonna get to the last question. I asked this fun question, everybody. So do can you name a piece of technology that doesn't exist today that you wish you had?
Well, there isn't like a specific, I'm not sure how like developed that type of technology would be today, but you know how we have heart rate monitors and monitors that kind of detect people with like cardiac issues and things like that. I think this is I think if you could make something kind of based off of that, but relating to people who have anxiety or like mental health issues, where, if their heart rate's a little iffy, or it can like detect other symptoms to help them
Yeah,
calm down. Like, for example, a lot of people today struggle with panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and it can put them in a really bad situation socially. Like in the past, I've on firsthand like seen people and have experienced things like that myself. So if there's like a little device that could kind of warn me in advance, so I can like take my space, or an advice that can keep checking in on
yeah,
mental health based off of your heart rate, and sometimes like some sort of device that you can wear, that would be pretty cool.
yeah.
I
I mean,
think.
that's amazing what you came up with. Yeah, that's it's a necessity. It's not a fashion device or anything like that. So it's something. It's a you know yeah. I mean, I don't know the medical side of things, but what I can imagine is, assuming if it's possible medically, I'm pretty sure it will be there. Just matter of time. Um, I'll be surprised if nobody's working on it right now. I'm pretty sure somebody may be working on it. One thing with this whole healthcare, the challenge is, even if there's some research going on or there's a device, by the time that comes to the market, it takes a while because of the regulatory stuff and all these regulations. They the compliances and the whole 9 years, just a mess. And so that slows down the research significantly. When it comes to all the business enterprises, there's a device, we just take it and use it. So when it comes to healthcare, holy moly, it has to go through a lot of you know checks, and uh, so there's that. And also, even if it is accepted in certain countries, it may not be accepted in other countries. So but having said that, still, that's why, when it's strange. When you go to whenever I go to my I was there for my physical once a year. I go to doctor. So when I go and look there, and somehow it doesn't feel like you're in a tech world. You are in Silicon Valley. I mean, you go to a clinic, this looks like some 15-year-old stuff. And so, I mean, once I had to help one of my friends in the urgent care. It's like almost like a third world country here. And see, for instance, if I'm going to urgent care, at least this was prior to pandemic. I don't know if things changed since then. So there is no way for me to send my information via cell phone because it's urgent care. It's called urgent care because as soon as I reach, I have to be inside and or I need attention from the doctor on the bed. There is no such thing. You have to stand in the line. There is a long line in the urgent care. What is that? So, and then there are people in the wheelchairs in the line. This is called urgent care. Only people they allow directly is ambulances. If you come to the ambulance, they just take you directly inside. And so if you are in between that and non-urgent, then you are in this weird,
Supposed to stand in the
yeah,
line.
yeah. And then you stand in the line. That day it was raining. Such a small room here. And then we had to close the door. And I was standing there. I was the healthy guy. And they're all non-healthy people. They're all coughing. I mean, I was standing there. I can't get out because it's raining. And I'm like standing there, and then there's a long line. It's crazy. When I look this whole thing, what are we doing? I mean, this is called Silicon Valley. Is it real? So anyway, but what you said is absolutely needed or necessity for mental health is a big concern, as you know very well, all over the world, more so in America. It appears to me, at least. Yeah, so I think we'll see that in future, and all the best for your future college and future endeavors. As I said before, we'll stay in touch, and so we are working with a lot of projects with a lot of colleges, including UC Berkeley. So we will be working with Haas School, and a lot of students from Haas is going to work with us on projects. So yeah, stay in touch, and then hopefully we can do something in future, and then we'll also do another podcast whenever there's a good fit.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time.